When the conversation of stocks comes up, I often think value stocks are pretty underrated, at least in today's market. Tech has dominated. Don't get me wrong, I own a lot of tech. I love tech. I got my degree in tech. I understand it. I own a lot of tech, but it's important to not be 100% weighted into tech because, believe it or not, there are times when tech underperforms. For example, 2022. Look what was not doing poorly in 2022. United Health, they were doing fine. They were actually kind of hitting highs in 2022. Meanwhile, companies like Meta, companies like AMD, companies like TSM, I like those companies. I own those companies. But they were getting slaughtered during that time. Now, and no, I'm not going to completely ignore the elephant in the room, which is politics that surrounds a stock like this. That is a reality. You have it with stocks like Tesla. You have it with United Health. I'm going to avoid it as much as possible. There's plenty of political channels and stuff you can find, all sorts of takes, and you guys believe whatever you want. I'm not here on this channel to cover politics. I'm here about making money, making good decisions around money. But just with this specific stock, I do feel like there's downward pressure because of what has recently transpired around this specific stock. And I do think it makes it slightly undervalued. In 4, 5, 6 years, are people going to at all be thinking about this specific event? Most likely not. Most likely not. In a year or two, maybe, but probably that has dissipated even more so. But with this specific stock, outside of that, this is still a relatively cheap stock. Well, you might say, okay, 33 PE, that doesn't sound super appealing to me. Actually, that is distorted by the GAP numbers. The non-GAP looks slightly better. We're somewhere, I'll let you guys calculate it on your own, but I think it's closer to 20, low 20s than it is, certainly than 30s, but I do think it's still a bit above this. They're expected to grow about 10-ish%. So let's just say the PE is, let's be conservative, let's say it's 22. Sitting at 22, we are a stock, a value stock in a growing field. Yes, you're never going to have that home run hit that you get with an AMD, with a TSM, with whatever tech stock you want. But still, this is a company that is valued below the S&P 500 even after the dip. We're at about 22 S&P 500, somewhere in that mid-20s range. We have outperformed the S&P 500. We're up 102% compared to the S&P 500 performance somewhere in that 70, 80-ish% range. Our dividend is actually higher, and if we zoom out, it even looks better. I mean, this is one of the best charts you can ever find. I mean, obviously in 2000, mid-2000s, it was high and it fell, but outside from that, I mean, it's just a straight run up nearly. Lows in 2009, you're sitting right at 23. If we go back about a decade ago, early 2015-ish, we're getting further and further into 2015. That's really how I keep track of time, guys. You've basically not quite 5x'd in 10-year time frame. For a stock like this, that is pretty incredible. And like I said, it's not that you're just writing off that high PE ratio. You're actually below the S&P 500. So you've dramatically outperformed the S&P 500 on a 10-year time frame. You have outperformed on a 5-year time frame. Your dividend is higher, and you have diversification into value. The only real negative is, yes, political ramifications around it. But this, in my opinion, if you do not mind holding for a while, eventually, assuming what we have seen in the past continues to happen, this is a stock I would expect to roughly match the S&P 500. Maybe you're expecting more than that. But if we get a value stock to match the S&P 500 in today's market where tech dominates, that's actually a very good performance in my opinion. I can't run 100% tech, guys. I can't do it. I love tech. It's awesome. I can't be 100% to one field. It's just too risky because what if there's a major recession, you lose your job, worst case scenario, and you're 100% in tech and tech's getting absolutely slaughtered. I mean, yeah, that's worst case scenario. But if you're diversified and you own REITs and you own healthcare and stuff, and I'm not saying it's not going to all go down, but at least in the case of REITs, you can get that dividend, you can hold through whatever it may be. It's just too risky to be 100% diversified into one field. So I want to find the best stocks in other industries that are important, that are growing, maybe aren't going to perform as well as tech in the long run, but are still going to do very, very well. Now, if you're looking at a 20-year time horizon, whatever it may be, you have a fully funded emergency fund, all that sort of stuff, and you want to go 100% to tech, you do you. That is totally fine. That's not what I'm going to do. And I assume since you're watching this far into a video about a stock on healthcare, you probably don't want to as well. I think United Health is going to do well. I think, like I said, there's a little bit of downward pressure on this. It might be a couple percent higher, probably 3 to 5%. If, political things didn't transpire. I mean, we can see the drop was from 610 to about 500-ish. Well, I don't know exactly what that drop would imply, but it's not insignificant. It really isn't. So you would expect some of that to still be priced in. I don't know exactly what the market's pricing in. I'm not here to do that. What I am saying is I think this stock is pretty well positioned. Obviously, they have diversification into the healthcare field. They do everything. A lot of the controversy was around the insurance and things like that. That is a very small percentage of their actual company. They don't make a super high profit margin on it. No one does in that specific industry. But just as a company, I mean, they're huge. $472 billion. That is a ginormous company. They're well diversified in the field itself. They've obviously been doing incredibly well long term. And I don't own a bunch of healthcare stocks. Maybe you do. If you do, you probably own this one as well, maybe similar ones. I'm not an expert on the healthcare field. It's not my specific industry of choice, but I do want to own it. Obviously, Americans are growing older and older. Older people are going to make a larger percentage of our population. And also just numerically, there's going to be more old people in terms of raw numbers. And people are going to be living longer as medicine continues to advance. So although you don't have that home run shot you get in something like a tech stock, you still can do very well in this specific field. You can. So these are some of the reasons I like United Health. Trying to keep this video relatively short. If you guys enjoyed, like and subscribe, do daily stock content on this channel. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.